Quorum, having nobody signed up, we'll move straight into the agenda prep for September 16th for the regularly scheduled board meeting. Please direct your attention to the draft agenda of that. I think the first item will be the superintendent's report, and looks like that'll just be student recognition, or will it be more than that, Dr. Sanders?
It will be student recognition.
Okay. And then we'll have closed session to hear a grievance and come back into open session to act on said grievance. Reports information for the month will include the Suicide Prevention Month update and the AP scores update. Those are AP scores from last spring.
Correct.
Yes. Consent agenda items, meetings and budget amendments. And items for action are a resolution nominating candidates to the Board of Directors for the Hayes County Appraisal District. I believe we have one candidate so far who has indicated their interest, and it's the candidate who's currently serving in that capacity. And then Human Resources has a consider approval for certification for waiver for a classroom teacher, and I'm assuming that is the standard pro forma thing we do at the start of every school year, where we have some classrooms that don't require certified teachers to teach the subject, and so we'll make those approvals.
We have about 80 teachers right now finalizing their teacher certification tests, and so they need a little bit more extra time to finish all of their exams. And so that waiver is to be considered for the teachers need additional time.
Great. Can we get an update at that time, too, of how many vacancies we have left in classrooms? Super. And any other shuffling, I think, that we've moved, where we've put teachers at different campuses or moved them around? Anything else the board wants in that report? And discussion and possible action of annual review of key local board policies, 2024-2025 school year. What's that?
So these are policies that CISD identified that we should be reviewing annually to make sure that our language, our titles of personnel are updated. And so we'll go ahead and present the ones that need to be updated because new people are in different roles. And then we'll present a calendar in your board book that goes through all the policies for each month that we'll be presenting to the board just to give updates or just to present even if there are no changes so that you're aware of our board policies.
I think that's great. I think especially if we can calendarize that, that's good, because we are trying to, as you know, review policy every month. So if we can see what ones are required, then we can see where we'll need to figure out what else we want to review in the meantime. So that seems great. The only other item I had to add to this is that we will need to vote on the approval of the superintendent's evaluation. We conducted that evaluation at our last regularly scheduled board meeting. I am in the process of writing up our notes on that. I will circulate it with the board before I share it with the superintendent, and then we'll need to just either make amendments to it or formalize it at the meeting in September. Anybody else have anything that they want to add? Mr. Arredondo.
Thank you, President Halsey. I don't know if the microphone is on, but whatever. And this doesn't have to be answered this evening. I was just curious, and again, I don't expect an answer tonight. Is it our assumption that we are going to rename the Central Administration Building after the previous namesake? Or do we have a plan or a discussion for that in the future? Again, what I'm thinking, what my assumption is, I don't know where the rest of the board is or the district. So if that can be, if that's Mr. Sandoval in a memo to the board or whatever that looks like, I just don't know what the plan is.
I don't think we've had that discussion. I was sort of assuming that we would do as we've done in the past and carry forth the name that had previously been associated with that building, but we should certainly probably have that discussion and formalize it.
Mm-hmm.
We could do that in September since it's not a very lengthy meeting at this point.
Yeah, just, I mean, if the assumption is what I think it is, then giving the district the green light to like buy the lettering for the building.
Yeah, so why don't we go ahead and
right?
put that on,
Yeah.
just to have that conversation.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Seeing that we're so close to the Vader election, I just would like to know what the progress is or where we are with the Vader, if that would be an item.
Update. anything else?
Mr. Sandoval wanted us to add security for closed session.
Okay.
And we'll also have, next month, we'll have more schools coming to present during the September 16th meeting.
So we haven't had any schools present yet, so are we rescheduling the schools that
We'll
we're
have
going to
3
present?
schools
Okay.
here tonight, and then I believe there will be 4 schools that will be presenting at the 16th board meeting.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Lopez has joined us. Welcome, Ms. Lopez. Do you have anything else that we want to add to the September agenda? All right. Then let's move into review and discussion of board operating procedures. I apologize. I sent 2 emails out this afternoon. I hadn't realized that we didn't have the board operating procedures sent prior, more recently than May. And I intended to send the memo from Mr. Cruz about executive session confidentiality earlier, and I forgot. So I apologize for that. But I think that the 2 things I looked at board operating procedures and was thinking about is, one, this suggestion from Mr. Cruz that the board consider signing a confidentiality agreement regarding the discussions that are held in executive session. You saw from the memo, he's recommending that to his clients across the state, both to the boards consider signing that, and that that any personnel, staff, administrators who are in executive session also sign that. So I don't think we need to vote on that tonight, but I think if anybody, has concerns, questions about that, maybe we should discuss that now. Otherwise, I would recommend that we put that on the September agenda as an amendment to our board operating procedure. It certainly seems,
Appropriate.
yeah, I don't know that there's really anything objectionable in it, but I'm open to conversations. Mr. Arredondo?
Thank you, President Halsey. I guess when reviewing the document, I'm fine signing it. But I guess the thing that I don't understand, or what isn't spoken to in the proposed language, is is it going to be like a tribunal in executive session, right? Like if I accuse Trustee Kane of sharing executive session information, does that mean we then recess and we make arguments against our colleagues, or what does that look like, right? It says we're going to agree to this document, and if one of us is found guilty, then we then sanction a colleague. And so I'm just curious, what that mechanism would look like, right? Do we get to plead our case against each other? I understand the intent of the document, and I'm fine signing it. It's just, I'm curious to know how it would be in practice if enforced.
I would think legal counsel would give us direction if there was a problem.
I would certainly think legal counsel would give us direction. I also think that, like many parts of being a school board member, it's on the honor system, right? It's on us to govern ourselves and to work together cooperatively. And, there's certainly, it's not perfect, but I think that is the system that we all agree to and need to hold ourselves up to. I understand your concern. I'm not sure that there's probably a great answer to that can be
And I guess
well defined.
And I guess the point of my comment is, again, I wholeheartedly support the intent and what it's trying to accomplish, but I mean, it creates an opportunity in which we would be arguing or petitioning against colleagues, and I think we already have a process to do that. As someone who has had a sanction vote come against them, I think it was well handled by staff and legal counsel, and I mean, I don't know. I'm grateful that we haven't had any issues of this current board and this current team of 8, and I just hope that we make it abundantly clear that this isn't being done to address some type of issue that's currently happening within this current board, right? Like, I'm happy
Right.
accepting as like a policy recommendation from legal counsel, but just making it abundantly clear that this isn't intentional against something or responding to some issue that's broken and needs fixing.
I don't think it's responding to that at all. I think it's it's a matter of implementing best practices, right? That we agree to.
Being proactive, I
Yeah.
think, it's being proactive.
Other thoughts on that? The other item, I know Mr. Shanks isn't here, but he had said in previous meetings that he would like to discuss the limiting of the number of reports and the length and maybe the type of report that we receive. And I wish he were here to speak on that more fully, but I don't know if anybody else had thoughts or ideas on what that would look like.
I know that, and I'm not going to speak for him, but I'm going to say what I think I heard Mr. Shanks say. That what he was hoping for was something like a 5 or 10 minute limit
He's coming.
on.
He's walking in. He's
Oh, good.
walking in.
Y'all said his name
Can
3
speak for
times.
Next up, Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I'll let him speak
He's
for
gonna
himself
come in
here in a
and-
minute, but like a 5 to 10 minute report, and some sort of time for questions either built in, so you get 15 minutes total and that's including questions, or
Beetlejuice.
whatever, yeah. You said your name 3 times and you were here.
Good evening. We were just talking about you because we are at the point in the meeting where we are reviewing board operating procedures. And the one recommendation that I was bringing was that we consider the confidentiality agreement that I sent out earlier this afternoon that came from Mr. Cruz, that would be asking board members and staff members who are privy to executive session conversations to sign the confidentiality agreement, which we discussed is it's really a matter of best practices and honor system and, agreeing to try to be our, to conduct ourselves in the highest way possible, right? And the other one I was bringing up was that you had previously asked about putting something maybe into board policy, which we talked about the board operating procedures maybe being the best place for that, pertaining to reports that we receive during board meetings and putting more definition around that. And so Jessica was jumping in to try to recall what she thought you were thinking, but if you would like to talk about what you would like to see, or if you have a suggestion for how we could handle that.
Yes. I have quite a few suggestions on that. Number one, I think to be fair to our administrative staff, there should be consistency among the reporting, so there should be a format that goes with it so that they're not trying to figure out what to present. The second part would be, it should be an executive level report, i.e. high level. If they want to provide more details, then that should be done ahead of the meeting. But the report should be very high level. Details should be sent out ahead of time. And then that way, the board members have an opportunity to review the details, and if they have any questions or comments, they can prepare those ahead of time. And this will kind of help make the meeting flow. And then there should be a time limit for all reports. And that time limit should be a presentation time limit and then a time for questions and answers.
Do you have recommendations on what you would like those time limits to be?
I would say probably 15 minutes max, but that's just my opinion. I think if you go beyond that, it goes outside of the executive level kind of reporting.
I think what we get long is the questions, that we add minutes to it by the kinds of questions. Some things we just listen to and we're good, but when we get into asking a lot of questions, then it becomes a longer session, a longer presentation.
And I mean, I think we could, what I've heard other boards do in the past is that you can say, as a matter of course, we are going to limit the number of presentations to 2 per meeting, 15 minutes for a presentation, up to 15 minutes for question and answer. But during the course of that meeting, if the Q&A, for instance, is going longer than 15, and if we're having more questions, we can vote on extending that, right? We can always make an exception. But it would require then the agreement of the board to make that exception. I think that's how I've heard other people handle it.
Sounds to me.
Yeah. I would probably say, I think having 2 reports is ideal, but maybe we should allow at least up to 3, because there are some months that, we have to hear construction updates, we have to hear finance and academics, and that's not really a choice.
I was just curious, whatever the policy is it gonna be in board operating procedures or ISD policy, or where would we see this thing living?
I was thinking board operating procedures.
And that was kind of the recommendation that we got from.
Yes, that's right.
From the, I forget who it
Yeah.
was that came in when we had that training.
Yep.
It's already in operating procedures. It's number 7 under the first section, but not the specifics we're talking about, but it's already in there in terms of limiting the number of reports and also, expecting, materials to get to us 7 days prior to the meeting. So that, to me, seems like the place that we would just amend. It's already in there.
And I like that policy, because that way, if I have what I would presume a tough question, I could in reality send it back through the superintendent and get that answered. And that could save us time in the meeting,
Yeah.
We're gonna want some discourse, of course, but, if we're all doing our prep, then tougher questions, or maybe questions that'll have a longer answer, could be shared back with everybody. And that way we can keep our communication as a group that way.
Sure. I think I'm amenable to all those suggestions.
Is there a way we can, is there a way we can see like a draft of this, or, I mean, I know we're kind of playing fast and loose with the agenda right now, workshopping what the policy would be. But is this something that's gonna go on like a future agenda to hash out?
That's
and
what I was hoping. I was
workshop?
hoping that we could ask staff to draft up something that would be an amendment to the policy that Ms. Kane just brought up, that would make those clarifications, and I would say, let's put it at 3, no more than 3 reports, unless there are extenuating circumstances, and 15 minutes.
Is this, sorry,
Yeah.
is this something that we can, I mean, I know it's not legal advice, but in the exact same way that we're looking at this best practice of like executive session policy, is it something we can ask Mr. Cruz, like, to compare with the other ISDs he represents? Obviously, I don't want to do like billable hours to that man. Love him to death, but like don't want, like, I just don't know who has access to that, right? Like Stephanie and them, excuse me, can like call other
I
school
think
districts
maybe
and ask,
if
but,
Miss,
I can ask,
yeah.
okay.
y'all have an exhibit on EDD. So your exhibit goes into the framework of your school board development and really walks through your procedures. I can get other exhibits
Okay.
to share with you all, and then if you wanna take bits and pieces of that and make that into your own, that's typically how we do local policy. Is the policy that's being reviewed, that sheet will review examples, put together their final version.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I think we don't need to overcomplicate it, right? We're trying to simplify things and streamline them. So if y'all could take a look, you've heard the conversation, you've heard our concerns, you've heard what we're aiming for. If you can see what else is out there and model something that you can send back to us to look at, that would be great. I think the one thing will be in determining the format of the reporting. That seems to me that maybe there might need to be multiple formats depending on which department is, and I don't know if we want to have a committee that works with admin to review that, or how we want to
But
have.
I think there's basic, from my experience, there's basic formats for executive summaries. Okay, it's, you can find templates online. I've done a couple of them myself. It's not, I'm not looking for, name here, this for, it's just basically following an executive summary kind of deal. I mean,
So then I guess we would look to you, Dr. Sanders and Dr. Cardona, to figure out what that means.
Yes. we will do that.
Okay.
Wait, excuse me. I think our best resource is TASD, because they deal with all the school districts, so.
Yeah, they might have something
They might
already.
have something already.
So, not to overcomplicate this, but basically, the way it generally works is you have an executive summary and then your report follows. And your executive summary is basically the takeaways that you want as the administrative staff. That's the takeaways that you want the board to walk away with. You know, so it's your important bullets. And if you're a numbers person or you want to see the data or the details that follows in that same report and you can dive into it. But if you just want to see the high level is there. So it shouldn't be overcomplicated.
Okay, so hopefully we can make that change to the board operating procedures, formalize something at the September meeting, so we'll need to go back and add that to the agenda. Anything else that people wanted to take a look at or discuss that were in the board operating procedures? I don't think we really need to go line by line through it unless folks want to do that, but. And we'll also, because we're going to put it back on the agenda for the regular meeting, we'll have another chance that we can examine if we need to, but, okay. Super. Then let's go to the budget workshop.
Academic.
Academic, sorry.
I was like, I didn't prepare for the budget. Okay, good.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. This evening for our academic workshop, we have the pleasure of having 3 of our campuses present, and they will be sharing with you some of the highlights from the data from the past school year and the work that they have led with their teams to collaborate and come up with their improvement strategies for this year. You'll notice that through the course of the presentations, there will be consistency in terms of sharing many of the highlights that all their campuses achieved. We'll also be looking at multiple forms of data. So you'll see the achievement data, obviously, that comes from standardized testing, but you'll also see perception data that comes from the work that we've done with OHI over the last year. All of that will be embedded throughout the presentation. So first, we will have Travis Elementary led by Mr. Massini.
Good evening, President Halsey, Deputy Superintendent Dr. Sanders, Board of Trustees. I am Scott Massini, Principal of Travis Elementary. This is our Assistant Principal, Mrs. Connie Blanda. I'd like to start off with our mission, Travis Elementary, where all scholars, families, staff, and community are growing together. We live and breathe this mission every day. Travis Elementary is an incredible place. We have the most dedicated and caring staff that I've been around in my 30 years in public ed. The care, the love, and the drive that they have for every scholar really make them exceptional. We're in the midst of our second turnaround. We have an opportunity before us to do what no school in San Marcos has done the last 7 years, and that is becoming an A-rated school. We have a steadfast focus on doing just that in the 24-25 school year. And we're going to make a name for ourselves the way we want it to be made. We will drive the narrative of who Travis Elementary is, who our scholars are, and what makes us an exceptional learning environment for all kids and adults that want to constantly grow and be challenged. We represent the turnaround operator in a turnaround situation. We're here to prove that turnaround work doesn't have to be ugly. That stability and continuity for scholars and families is possible when schools transition, when schools move, and that momentous academic gains can and will be made by our scholars. We get to write this Travis story. We all play crucial roles in making our story a success. As Dr. Sanders has stated, if Travis fails, we all fail. We've made a promise to our kids and families that we will do whatever it takes to give our scholars a loving and rigorous educational experience. Our school-wide priorities, when done well, will guarantee that we are the guardians of that promise. We believe that we will reach our goals this school year while serving all scholars.
Good evening. So I get to share some celebrations with you. So on this slide, you'll see our cohort data for math for the last few years. So our math cohort data has consistently shown increased scores between 3rd and 5th grade. The 2021 cohort displayed in green started at 40% approaches in 3rd grade and moved to 71 approaches and almost 40% meets in 5th grade. The 2022 cohort of scholars displayed in orange at the bottom moved from 32% approaching to 64% approaching by the time they had left 5th grade in Travis. This year's 5th graders displayed in red were at 40% meets in math last year, so we expect to see significant growth for them as 5th graders this year. We know they will be in the 70 to 80% range or higher for approaches and 40 to 50% or higher range for meets. And then looking at our reading language arts data, similar to math, we've seen increases in scores. For our current 5th graders, the 2023-24 cohort shown in red, their reading language arts scores increased from 54% approaches and 26% meets in 2023 to 71% approaches and 36% meets in the spring of 2024. So we're expecting to continue to see great gains in reading language arts this year as well.
So as you know, going back to our data, as Ms. Nash has discussed in previous school board meetings, it's hard to compare school to school. And we do have the highest mobility rate in the district. And so that's why we really look at where kids come in. If you look at that data moving across from where they start in 3rd to when they leave us, they make significant gains. One, I don't know if you may or may not remember this, but when Ms. Nash showed the school-wide or the district-wide data, we had 2 scholars district-wide who moved from failing to masters, and we had one of those at Travis. We had a scholar who came to us first year at Travis last year who failed the previous year, and he went to masters in math on the 5th grade exam. And he mastered in science as well, which there was no growth measure, but he mastered in both. So our strategies for continuous improvement, we have 3 strategies for continuous improvement: effective schools framework, our school-wide goals, and leadership beliefs, really looking at our organizational health, using the organizational health instrument. So we're going to begin with effective schools framework. So lever 1 is strong school leadership. We're building out Travis leadership systems that will support levers 1 and 2, strong school leadership and strategic staffing. We're embracing the leadership beliefs with OHI, which Ms. Blando will share a little bit later, with clear roles and responsibilities which align to ESF's strong school leadership. We're using tools from the Texas Instructional Leadership to support teachers with where they are at instructionally. Also part of this system, we're at the infancy stage of this, where we align observation and feedback cycles with T-tests, which is our evaluation system, and STAR, the assessments, and the district common assessments, to make strategic decisions with where we place where we place staff each school year. This year we can articulate that we've made strategic decisions at 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, but we can only articulate that. We can articulate the why and the data we use, We want to move to a place where we memorialize this and we can actually show that. We're creating conditions for student learning with the use of CHAMPS. This is a framework for classroom management that features high leverage practices which maximize instruction and facilitates a safe, productive, and affirming learning community. We have school-wide routines that are clear, action-oriented, and easy for scholars to remember. Our staff and scholars demonstrate safe and effective transition, and this all contributes to that enhanced learning environment, enhanced student learning. Lever 4 is about high-quality instructional materials and assessments. And we've done this very well over the last 3 to 4 years at Travis. You can't go into a classroom at Travis and not see high-quality instructional materials being used. Our district has done a tremendous job on the assessment end of creating assessments, creating the district common assessments that really has helped us prepare for STAR. You can see that from 23 when we didn't have them to last year when we did have them. So we're increasing our effectiveness. Where we have to improve at Travis is increasing our effectiveness with research-based instructional strategies in RLA and math, in reading language arts and math. Which that leads us to the final lever, which in ESF is effective instruction, and through those research-based instructional strategies, we will deliver that through professional learning and through the observation and feedback cycle that we'll be doing with Texas Instructional Leadership. We'll be using the Get Better Faster observation and feedback cycle to not only see every teacher every other week, but we're also creating time to provide bite-sized feedback and actionable goals for teachers to work on. This is not an evaluative measure. This is an opportunity for us as administrators to really live in our mission of growing every teacher on our campus. And so now, then going into our school-wide goals, we have 3 school-wide goals this year, and they all build upon each other. So we really, through our training this summer with CHAMPS, we really came to that realization we have to teach kids to follow adult directions. They don't always know how to follow adult directions. We have to tell them 1, 2, 3 times. But we're going to teach, our goal is to teach, that's a school-wide goal all year long, to teach kids to follow adult directions, any adult in the building. Then that builds over to increase time on task. We really want to increase the time on task. With our mobility problem at Travis, we're trying to figure out the root cause of the mobility issue at Travis. But one of those ways is if kids aren't in the classroom, they're not learning. So we want to increase that time on task. If scholars are learning to follow adult directions, they're going to increase their time on task, which also leads us to the last goal of 80-50-30. Our goal on everything we do is to have kids at 80% approaches, 50% masters, and 30%, 80% approaches, 50% meets, and 30% masters on everything we do, whether it's a unit assessment, whether it's district common assessments, whether it's an exit ticket, whether it's a social emotional learning goal. Those are all, that's going to be our school-wide goal.
So now I'd like to share a couple of our leadership beliefs with you. So we believe all decisions should be consistent with our mission and goals, should be data-based, should be anchored in sound theory and practice, and should be focused on what is best for the short and long-term interests of all students. We believe all decisions should be made at the most appropriate level and should be as close to the point of implementation as possible. The competency and commitment levels of those involved will help determine the appropriate level. So after analyzing the data that we received from the Organizational Health Instrument, OHI, we decided to evolve our leadership team so that they were more aligned with our beliefs, especially the belief that decisions should be made at the level closest to the point of implementation. So in short, we wanted to add more teachers' voices to our leadership teams. So prior to this year, our leadership team consisted of an instructional leadership team, or ILT, and a campus improvement team, CIT. The instructional leadership team consisted of Mr. Massini and I, along with our counselor and 2 instructional coaches. And the campus improvement team consisted of those same 5 people, along with a teacher from each grade level and special areas that represented each of those teams. So CIT, ILT, very sort of traditional model. So because we wanted to add more teachers' voices to our leadership teams, our instructional leadership team, for example, now has grown from 5 people to 13 people, 9 of whom are teachers, because teachers are at the level closest to implementation. So they should be involved in the decision-making process. Our campus improvement team has evolved into a faculty advisory committee. So this allows ILT to really focus their time and energy on all things related to instruction, best instructional practices, analyzing data, and so on. And then that allows the faculty advisory committee to focus on things that impact the day-to-day operations of the campus and issues that affect our faculty. So this idea of shared leadership, this shared leadership system, allows more teachers to participate. So we think that will have a positive impact on not only our organizational health, but on student achievement as well.
Thank you for letting us present on our school and share the good things that are happening at Travis. Are we questions or?
I have a question. How does this fit in with our campus improvement plan? Will we take some of this information that we presented here and incorporate it into our campus improvement plan? Because I know that was approved a few months ago.
Yes, ma'am. You'll see that it aligns to the our campus improvement plan aligns to Effective Schools framework throughout the entire plan, and our school-wide goals are embedded in there, as well as really about our instructional leadership team and our faculty advisory council. Those pieces are embedded into our campus improvement plan as well.
So you will go back and review it, and if there needs to be any changes made to it, you'll do that.
Correct. We can iterate throughout it's a living, breathing document.
Thank you.
I think this is great, and I especially love the reconfiguration of the committees to include more teachers in them. I think that's really important. I'm wondering if you can give us an example of what a lesson in following adult directions, what does that sound like? What does that look like? I mean, I'm assuming it has to be different for a kindergartner than a 5th grader, right? But there's got to be common language that you're using, I'm assuming, or?
Absolutely. So we kick off morning announcements every day. We have morning announcements that include a piece on teaching school-wide following adult directions. It spills into Strong Start. So right after morning announcements, our teachers do Strong Start or morning meeting, and our counselor has written lessons through grade appropriate lessons to be rolled out within Strong Start. And then we recognize scholars on Friday at our all-school assembly for following adult directions and increased time on task. When we see that school-wide, we shout them out at the Friday morning assembly, and we also do a teaching moment there with the whole school at that point.
Cool. Questions? Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So. All right, so right off the bat, thank you all for allowing me to come here. Dr. Sanders as well. I almost said Dr. Cardona, but my mindset here. Again, thank you all for having me here today. I'm very excited to present. I know I've only met y'all a couple of times, but in this short month of campus at work, I can tell you we've got a lot of great things happening there. Good night. So I'm going to start right there, like I said. Good night. We're back and we're all in. You are going to be pleasantly surprised this year, I think. Well, no, I know. Pleasantly surprised of all the good stuff that's happening there. So I'm going to walk you through some of the goals that we have set ourselves at our campus this year. Now, a lot of this does follow our CIP. A lot of it you will see is aligned to the instructional framework, to ESF as well. And so right off the bat, I'm going to go into some of the positives here. And what we looked at to chart our course when it came to creating the goals as a campus at Goodnight Middle School. So what we're looking at up here is just, I'll go over the data numbers up here first, 23-24 school year data. What we're looking at right there is 22-23, 23-24 school year. You can see the top line says Goodnight, the second line is the region numbers. Now that first row that you see up here at the top is 6th grade RLA. So we saw a lot of positives coming in. I was lucky to come into a campus where there were good things happening, there still are good things happening. So right off the bat, I want to showcase 6th grade ELA. We had a 7% increase, or 7 percentage point increase when it came from the previous year, which was above the region. My goal as the leader of Goodnight Middle School and our goal as a campus is, and I think Dr. Cardona had said this early on, we want to be the school of choice in the region. That's what I want. I want people to be sending kids to our campus, and I want parents to be seen and saying, I want my kid at Goodnight because of this, this, and this. Not just the academics, but the athletics, the fine arts, all that good stuff. So I throw this out there, though, because I want to compare us to the region. Not to Miller, not to a school around here. I want to compare us to all the schools around here and show what we can do there. On top of that, right below that 7th grade RLA, we had a 3 percentage point increase right there from the previous year, whereas the region actually went down in that area. And over to the right side as well, right here, we see the master's level. Now, we've already bought in our campus 80, 50, 30. We're not, our mindset of approaches is out the window already. Every time we talk about in our PLC isn't about data and everything, we're talking about needs at grade level. We need 50% or more of our students at grade level, and that's our mindset right now. So I throw this here because we looked at these numbers and we saw some increases, and even at the bottom right there's 8th grade social studies. They actually went up down here to the meets grade level, 10 percentage points from the previous year, whereas the region actually went down a percentage point. So our masters went up, our meets went up, but when we talked about this as a leadership team, and even the teachers, this was not enough. This is not where we need to be. We need to be better than this. I know it's hard to see up there, and that's my fault with the color of the font there, so I apologize, but I'll read it. This was also information we took into account when we were charting our course about goals that we want to work on, which I'll get into here in a second. But the first thing you cannot read, right here in red, hopefully you'll see it on your own, it's goal focus. When we got this OHI data, one of the things that we were lacking at the campus was a focused goal. We did not have an endpoint, we did not have a goal that we wanted to work towards. Right now, I can tell you right off the bat, and it's going to be on the next slide, I'm a moonshot thinker. Our goal already is an A campus. I know Mr. Mancini talked about his campus is going to do that. We're going to do the same thing. So we had goal focus was something that we needed to work on. The second thing underneath there that you cannot see, it says communication. We had an issue with communication on the campus. It is what it is. The one right below that is problem-solving adequacy. We were not building capacities into teachers to go and do their job and do it to the best of their ability. One thing that I want to throw out on this, because we talked some numbers here, we're talking about OHI, and this really helped us chart our course, is the one you can kind of see is in black, cohesion. We have a team there for last year, the year before, you have a close-knit, cohesive team. Those teachers, that staff, they want to work together for the well-being of the students, and that's a fabulous thing. So we looked at this, we were like, man, we got teachers, and not just me, when I say we, it was the school. I came in with teachers or leaders on day one. We have a cohesive staff. All we need to do is set a goal and stick to it and do that job. And so I'm going to go into what our goals are and what we kind of looked at. So right off the bat, goal number one, and again, a lot of this is in our CIP. A lot of this is going to mirror our instructional framework, which the district provides, which is awesome. Again, goal number one, we want to elevate campus culture for the students, the teachers, and the staff. Now, I'm a huge, huge moonshot thinker. Oh, my microphone, sorry. Y'all can't hear me. All right, I got going there. So I'm a big moonshot thinker. I like to set the hardest goals, and what's the saying? You set these goals not because they're easy, because they're hard. That is my mindset for everything I've done in my life. That's what I push for my students. That's what I push for our teachers and staff. Our goal right off the bat when I met the teachers on day one and we started talking about this and sharing Moonshot was, that's my goal right there, an A-rated campus. There is no reason we cannot be an A-rated campus. There's no reason, that's all I gotta say. And so we have a common purpose. We have that Moonshot thinking and we have that common goal. Now we wanna approach this, going back to the 8 OHI data, is the communication was somewhat lacking. Some of the other things when it came to building teacher capacity was lacking. And so what I want to do is, what we want to do, one of our goals as campus is to bring in more teacher voice. We did create a campus leadership team that meets weekly. That's not our admin team. Our admin team meets on Monday. The following Tuesday, we bring in department chairs, our instructional coaches, our counselors, and the admin team, and we have conversation about what concerns there are. You have the boots on the ground, you're the teachers, you're bringing information from your team, and it's open communication, because that's something that I truly believe that by having open communication, it's going to build trust and it's going to build capacity in the teacher to be able to be trusted to do what they need to do. We've also taken the advice of the OHI people as well. We did create a faculty advisory council, so we have those each month. Those are not our department chairs, those are not our ICs. Those are the teachers who were nominated by the faculty, by their colleagues. We have 7 of them that are going to come to the table, bring concerns, have open communication. And again, the goal of this is to build trust, to have open communication, which we know is going to lead to positive culture. When you have somebody at the table and their voice is being heard, it's going to make them want to do the job, not only for themselves, but for the students. And that's what we want. And so the positive school culture, I mean, it's for everybody involved. I truly, again, believe in, if I can come in and create a positive atmosphere, the teachers are going to want to come to work. If the teachers are coming to work because they like where they are, the students are going to come because the teachers are there doing their job. If the students are there showing up every single day, attendance is going to go up, and without doing anything else, the achievement's going to go up because their seat is in the chair and they're learning more information. So that's what our goal is when it comes to positive school culture. Now, goal number 2 that we worked on and that we created, again, that's in our CIP that aligns to the instructional framework, is that we're looking at strategic staffing. So our goal is to improve targeted supports for our designated sub-pops, specifically our CWDs, our children with disabilities, or our EBs, emergent bilinguals. Coming in right off the bat, when I saw the data, that's what not only I, but our team wanted to work on. These are the students that need the most support. And so our goal is to target them. We hired accordingly. We were able to bring in more staff. I'll focus on the EBs first. We are able to have 4 teachers going into 17 classes each day with our EB students and doing push-in because they're strategically supporting them. And we were able to hire another Spanish teacher and give them half and half teaching loads, so they're in there working with our EBs. We have an ESL teacher who's going in 6 periods. We hired another instructional aide to do the same. These are the kids, based on the data, our campus saw were falling through the cracks, not only the EBs, but our CWCs, our children with disabilities. We hired additional aides to get them in there and work with them. We were able to work our schedule strategically where our co-teachers were able to spend more time with RTI the students, finding the information and the data that the students needed help on, and going in and doing push-in. So, in addition to that, I was able to take some of the I won't say pressure, but the workload off of our assistant principals. So my goal was to be more visible, for us to be in the classroom. So our assistant principals, we took 504s off their plates. We took testing off their plates. I was able to find another position for a campus testing coordinator. The goal of all this when it comes to the strategic staffing that we wanted to get done was we, as instructional leaders, were in the classroom working with our teachers, providing more feedback, going in over and over and working on those coaching cycles. And so that was our goal number 2 right there, to improve targeted supports of those students. But by doing that, we're also working with the teachers in the classroom more, meeting with them and getting them more feedback on what they need. Now the third goal, the last one that we decided to focus on this year, was effective instruction. Now, again, I'm a fan of back to basics. I'm a fan of less is more sometimes. I don't think we need to overdo things when it comes to education sometimes. We know for the most part, if we have good tier 1 teaching, and we are teaching them good reading, writing, inquiry, analyzing strategies, those process standards, 80% of the students are going to hit grade level approaches. All we gotta do at that point is just start digging a little deeper on those EDs I was talking about, those SPED students, numbers start going up, we hit that 80, 50, 30. So we have school-wide tier 1 teaching. We have objectives on the board to create consistency from class to class. Our walkthroughs are focused on what we are seeing when it comes to good tier 1 teaching. We have AVID's campus-wide. I know on the first slide, we are a recognized AVID school. We are up for revalidation this year, and I can guarantee you that's going to happen. We are going to be good with that. We are working very hard right now with our AVID site team. We are pushing it like crazy. I'm 100% all in, bought in for that. So we're going to be good with that. Again, I'll talk about, we focused on the SPED and our EBs when it comes to this effective instruction, doing the pullouts. We revamped our MTSS, the multi-tiered systems of support, so we can start reaching, our goal is to reach the students through our grade level meetings that need us the most, that are falling through the cracks. So we are working with our grade levels every month when they meet to send students our way, whether it's for emotional reasons, academic, attendance, behaviorally. Again, we revamped that MTSS so we can intervene a lot earlier. Not to wait till the end of the school year, but I'm a fan of formative testing. That's how we're looking at this. We're going to intervene fast, jump on it, fix the issue, and then move on from there. And again, data-driven instruction. We are in a district, which I am thankful for, to see that we have things in place that work. We have PLCs, a framework for PLC. We have lesson plan templates. We have pacing guides that are there to the T. Our goal is to get the teachers, and this goes back to us as admin, we are being visible. We're in the PLCs, we're in the classroom seeing that this is happening. Our goal is to make sure that teachers are looking at that data and doing instant fixes, not waiting 9 weeks down the road or a half a year down the road, but they're looking at that data in their PLCs when time comes up. They're getting back to what works for the student, what doesn't work, reflect and fix as we go. So those are the 3 goals we're focusing on this year at Goodnight Middle School. And you know, it's a big task, but how are we going to do it and why are we going to do it? Because, I mean, I say it all the time, we are Goodnight. I am Goodnight. We are Goodnight, and that's why it's going to get done. We have a shared vision going into this year. We want to be an A campus. We want things that get done. I truly 100% know that everybody we have on that campus is bought into that goal. We're all in this together. I say this all the time, and I'm going to say it anyway, even though Dr. Sanders says don't say it. I always say we're going to fail together, or we're going to succeed together. He always corrects me, stop saying fail together. But my point in saying that is we are a team, we are bought in together, and we're not going to fail, but I have to say that to make a point because he's right there. We are going to succeed together. We're lifelong learners. We're building capacity. We're trusting the teachers and staff there to do their job and no mistakes happen, just like with the kids. We tell them all the time, you're going to make a mistake. If you are expecting perfection, you're going to drive yourself crazy, and that's not going to happen. That's okay. We're going to take risks. We're going to learn by trying new things. I am going to trust the teachers who know what they're doing. And if you go into our Goodnight Middle School, and I welcome you all the time, y'all will see these teachers know what they are doing. They're in that classroom, they're working, they're in those PLCs, they're doing what they need to get done. And the last thing, celebration and humor. It's a job, we all love it, but we're going to feel good about what we're doing. We're going to have bad days, but that's okay. You need to rely and lean on that colleague to get you through that bad day. Because as y'all know, we're all in education. We all work here in schools. 99.99% of the days are good. It's just those one little bad ones, and if that's all we have, that's all good. So that's kind of our plan this year at Goodnight. Again, I'm very excited for this year, and I thank y'all for bringing me into the team here at Goodnight. And I think, again, I'll say it, you are going to be, I don't think you'll be surprised, but I'll say, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised of what we do this year. This is our year, and like I said, we're back. We're all in. So, there we go. Questions, comments, concerns?
I love this approach. I think it's terrific. And I specifically like the strategic staffing approach. I think that seems really responsive to both our broad budget concerns, but also concerns that I hear from teachers where they feel frustrated because they have to spend too much time doing this or too much time doing this or too much time doing this, which is not classroom time, right? And so I think defining those various tasks and jobs accordingly and using your resources to support that, as well as doing the push and supports in the classroom, sound terrific. So
Thank you, thank you. And I walked away from the microphone, sorry. I gotta go on again.
Thank you, President Halsey. Can we go back to the slide that showed the academic performance data? So when you say that Goodnight increased 7% when the state increased 3% in 6th grade reading language arts, or that Goodnight increased whatever that percentage that I can't see and the state decreased 2%, I understand that when it came to year increase, there was increases on our ISD side, but when compared to the region, we're still 10 or 15 percentage points comparatively. And so I think I can speak for my colleagues when I say, like, I don't think I've ever seen a more proactive, intentional board when it comes to supporting our schools. I think we have voted for every investment in staff and campus as we can. And so I say that as a caveat to, it frustrates me as I sit here and hear this presentation and we say in a creative way that compared to the region, you know, we increased 7 points and the state or the region decreased 2. When you compare it, we're still 15 to 20 points down in the measurable categories. And so I appreciate the sense of urgency and the confidence and the way in which you're moving, because I think it's been desperately needed at Goodnight. But I don't want us to kid ourselves when we acknowledge that there's a lot of work to be done at our schools.
And yes, you're right. I agree 100%. And you know, when I have these conversations with the teachers and with myself as reflecting, you know, I'm not naive. I'm an optimist, but also a realist. We look at the numbers and we see where they are, and we are behind, like you said. But what I'm trying to build with our team is we can only look ahead and do the best we can, but you're 100% right. Again, I don't want to, it's not all flowers and roses whatsoever. So, you know, I come in here with my vision and what I want. I think the first thing is, and we've had those conversations at the campus, we have to see what it is and be real about it, but also come up with an approach and make sure we stick to it, because I'll say this, we have a long way to go. You're right.
And just to reiterate, one, thank you, and I don't want my comment to be seen as a dig by any stretch of the imagination. I don't want it to be perceived that way. You're talking to the person who showed up when one of our elementary schools was an F-rated campus, and I was the only board member or administrator there on the first day of school, because when our campuses are experiencing challenges, more than ever, we need strong leadership there. And so again, I thank you for your sense of urgency and acknowledging the work ahead, and know that, you know, you have advocates up here and across the district who are pulling for you.
Thank you very much. And I feel that a lot by all of y'all. So thank you.
Anything else? Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much.
I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to see over the computer, but I can see y'all. Okay, let me get the presentation up. I think this is us. Okay, good evening, President Halsey, board members, and Dr. Sanders. It's my honor to speak to you this evening. Before I begin, I am Twyla Guajardo. I've met most of you before. I'm the new principal, the new proud principal at San Marcos High School. But I do want to introduce, you did get to meet two of our newest team members, but Mr. Dionisio is a new assistant principal, and then Eileen Gross is our new associate principal here at the high school. So I wanted to make sure that you guys got to see them and meet them. So this is a lot. I normally do the little animation so that you can focus, but what I really want to make sure you know is there's a lot at the high school, right? And we talk about STAR all the time, but I want you to know that out of the, 80 different courses probably that we teach, it's probably more than that, only 5 of those appear in the A through F accountability, only 5. Right? So I wanted to lead with some pictures of our students. This is a small number of student successes that I could have chosen from, but I did want to kind of give you a broad picture I do want you to know that our early college high school had 39 graduates last year graduate with an associate's degree before they graduated from high school, which is pretty phenomenal that 39 of our students were able to do that. We had an additional 25 students that had between 12 and 57 hours of college credit when they left us last year in ECHS. In health science, we have emergency medical technician, so that's your EMT. We've had the program for 10 years, and probably the remarkable thing that I learned when I talked with Ms. Batting is we have experienced greater and greater degrees of success. So it says there that it's a 65% first-time pass rate, which, you'd say, oh, 65%. It's actually higher than the Texas Fire Academy and the national average for adult classes on EMT. That's our program here in our school is turning out those results. Also, we had 25 additional student course complete, and what that means is that they had 72 clinical hours working in an ambulance and or in an ER setting, 72 hours as a high school student working in that setting. We also had certified nursing assistants and phlebotomy with 90% passing rate, and we had 25 students that earned either or both of those certifications, which takes them directly into the workforce. Also, we had medical assisting 10 students that earned their certified clinical medical assistant credential, and then we had lots of success at HOSA for state and national levels. We also had cosmetology and fashion design, which we compete in something called Skills USA, and you can see our fashion design kids are down there at the bottom picture with, those are actual student created from start to finish, designed and created outfits that they put together. And we had 4 fully licensed stylists before graduation. What a lot of people don't recognize, and something that we talk about at the high school a lot of times, is that our CTE classes, they serve all kids. And in some places, we change the trajectory of a kid's life. We change their family tree. We save kids sometimes. We save kids' lives sometimes. And so the work that we do is very, very important. There are great academic needs for sure. But I did want you to know that there's so much that happens on a daily basis here at this high school that really reveals kids to themselves sometimes. They don't even know. They're in high school and they have no idea what they're capable of. And a lot of times they've already given up on what they think they can do, right? But then we have the other end of the spectrum, right? So we serve all kids in our community. Every type of person in our community, they come to our school, right? In all of our schools. We did have some successes in the STAR EOC improvement, and I just chose to highlight the areas where we saw growth. We are below, as Mr. Arredondo said, we are below the state and the regional averages. But in biology, our approaches went up 8%. In English 1, our meets went up 12%, and this is from 23 to 24, so spring to spring. 10% went up in meets for English 2 and 7% in meets in U.S. history. And that was nice to see. It is hard sometimes when you look at the data and you are well below. So it is important for us to highlight the areas where we did have growth. I also want to recognize that we had 15 recent College Board national recognitions, and those would be for either rural, first generation Hispanic or indigenous persons, or a combination of that. We had 15 students with multiple recognitions. And those are the highlights of of what we've accomplished in this past year. I am certain there are far more things than I forgot than what I put on there. But coming in June, probably those big things with the health science and cosmetology, those were big things that happened at the end of the year. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about the organizational health inventory data, which was such a gift. As a new principal, I'm an experienced principal, and just based on data, there's a lot of things that I could guess, but this was super, super helpful and insightful and provided kind of filled in, right, some of the information because I wasn't here to experience school last year. Our biggest area of need is goal focus. And so what that means is that by and large on our campus, there wasn't common language around a common goal, right? Everyone kind of decided what their goal was themselves, right? And our area of strength was cohesiveness. So that was similar to, I think it was Mr. Mitchell from Goodnight. So cohesiveness, and so being clear about what our goal focus is and making sure that we take the strength of those relationships among the adults on the campus and focus it on the correct things. So that's what you're about to see. All right, so the very first thing is all about safety and discipline. Academics are primary, but you cannot have academics if you don't have a reliable system, if kids are not comfortable where they're learning, if they don't feel safe, if adults cannot predict how the day is going to go day to day. And so safety and discipline is listed first. The big thing for us is that we're all adults on the same team and we're working together for students. And what that looks like is ensuring that students and team member safety is the priority. So it is every single adult's job to care about safety, all the time. All the time. There's never a time when it's not your job as an adult to care about the safety of your colleagues and of the kids that their care, we are trusted with their care. Also, administrators and teachers are in the hallway, which has been phenomenal. The teachers have been doing an amazing job. And if not, we just come to the door and say, hey, good morning, how are you? Can I get you to come to your door? It doesn't happen too often, but we definitely do that as administrators, making sure we're in the hallway. And then we do have a new cell phone policy to support effective instruction, which has been pretty tremendous. Having all the adults requiring that kids are engaged in the learning happening during instruction has been really neat to watch. And I know that the adults are super excited about it. It was their number one issue when we closed out last year. I sent out a survey. The number one issue to address was cell phone. And so that's why it's been a focus for us. We do take a restorative approach for discipline. Being in a high school with almost 2,500 kids, you're going to run into discipline issues and behavior issues, and the important thing is to address it immediately, but in a way that really strengthens the relationship that we have with a kid. If they're displaying behavior in a high school setting, it is a big cry for help and for attention. And so our approach is to be restorative in that and making sure that we're focusing on skill development for that young adult, because they're still a kid and they still deserve to be taught the correct way to behave and to know that they can do it, and it does matter, right? It is going to matter when you leave our school that you're able to function and follow the rules of society. And then discipline, when possible, should repair the connections between the people that were involved in the situation. That is a big focus for us. And so sometimes there's a consequence, but ultimately it's about repairing the relationship and building the capacity in the kid to do better the next time. Improving instruction is right behind that, and so we have two big keys. The first one is focusing on curriculum and assessment and the collaborative team development. So because we're so large, we have multiple people who teach the same content, and so we're focusing on the unit and lesson plans. We have tremendous support from our academic team, and they provide through the high quality instructional materials and then supportive documents that come from the TEACS resource system, and then developing out lesson plans. It's very supportive of our team members because they can focus on engagement strategies and very specific strategies to target the objectives, because that work is laid out for them and it makes it better in the collaborative time, which we'll talk about in just a second. And then there's aligned student assessments and planning opportunities for improvement and extension. So that's the focus on bell-to-bell instruction. One of the things I've said several times now, we don't have time. We don't have time for a kid to be on their phone the last 10 minutes of class. There are gaps to fill. There's learning that can be occurring, and we need to make sure that we're guarding that. And so that's part of that cell phone policy. It's part of expecting bell-to-bell instruction. And then professional development. Professional development is super, super, super important to me. Professional development happens within the collaborative time, whenever teachers are able to talk to one another, when there are instructional coaches in there, when administrators there, so that we can talk through things. But I also believe in putting people in front of the experts. And so we have training already outlined through professional learning communities with Solution Tree. And then we're going to utilize our walkthrough data, which we've already started gathering information about classrooms and what's happening. And some of the things we can see is we need to help teachers learn how to write targeted learning objectives for the lesson, right? With a lot of specificity, so they know what evidence they're looking for to ensure that a student has shown proficiency with that content. And then increasing student engagement, and then also classroom management. There's lots of things that you need to do in a 90-minute period, right? It's great to have 90 minutes, but it also comes with the responsibility to keep students engaged for 90 minutes. So then we have effective structures for communication. You have to work really hard to not be informed. Because there is a lot of communication, and it happens through weekly leadership meetings. We have a core team of leadership members in the morning, which is counselors and administrators, but then in the afternoon is a teacher leadership team that provides a way for multi-way communication. We have weekly bulletins with the faculty that I write and I send out all the time. Administrators capture pictures so that we can highlight good instructional practices that are happening, and they can be recognized by their peers so that they can see the different things that are happening. And then we read excerpts from a book called The Will to Lead, The Skill to Teach. We have the campus-wide master calendar and consistent regular meetings with our CMCISD departments, which is very helpful because there's a lot going on here at the high school, and so it's very nice to have so many people in the district that understand what's happening and can kind of keep tabs on the different pieces that make a comprehensive high school like this work. And then we also have our weekly Rattler Roundup for families to make sure that they stay informed. Ultimately, this is what I want you to know. This is the high-level overview. I want you to know this is our goal. So at the end, and this appears all over the place. We talked about it the first week and a half that we were back all the time. We talk about it whenever we meet. It's part of our T-test goals. It's part of the goals that we write as individuals. But our goal is for 80% of all of our students to grow, but 80% will demonstrate proficiency. And what that means is grade level. It's on grade level. We cannot be teaching kids below grade level. We can't. And so this is our goal. Trying to figure out how to write a goal that was not specific just to STAR EOC, and this is what we came up with, is that on grade level TEKS for all courses, and that is evidenced by grade, STAR EOC, AP, industry, and UIL outside measures. That way we could get all 80 classes and write one goal so that everybody knew what the goal is. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk to y'all. Do you have any questions, comments? Yes, sir.
Thank you, President Halsey. I just wanted to thank you for your leadership at San Marcos High School. I know when the board was updated about the new upcoming cell phone policy, and then when it was rolled out, there was this perception in the community that the high school was going to slide off a hill and like sink into the ocean, right? Like if we did this thing, these bad things were going to happen. And we've seen how that feedback and that pushback has derailed previous leaders or initiatives because there was no fortitude to follow through. So I'd like to express my thanks for your fortitude and leadership to hold the line on that. And I look forward to seeing those improvements academically and know that you have support, at least for me, for further initiatives like that that might seem scary and unpleasant and a big change, but I mean, the data doesn't lie, right? And we have to change significantly what we're doing at our flagship high school. So thank you.
Can I give you a little detail about why it works?
Yeah, please.
So administrators, one of the things we came up with is that this is so important to our staff, and it is so important that kids are not robbed of their education anymore, that we are willing to stop what we're doing, and we immediately go to the room and handle the cell phone issue right then and there. It doesn't matter what's happening. One of us has to get up and go to the room and handle the situation. And when we get to the room, either the phone comes with us or the phone and the kid come with us. But we're not leaving without that. And that has made all the difference in the world. Because we just decided that it was so important to teachers that it had to be important to us, so it doesn't follow like a referral process, because, you know, that's a day or two or whatever, so. Thank you for acknowledging that. It's really the teachers deciding that it was important and recognizing that it was needed. And of course, we have great kids. Our kids they meet the expectations when we're clear about what they are.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
What are the teachers doing to set the example and having their phones off?
Okay, so it totally depends in the classroom. A lot of teachers, what I've seen is, I've seen teachers put theirs actually in the pocket. I actually put mine in the pocket one time whenever I was in there, because I had my computer. And then, or they have it on their desk turned over. Sometimes students are allowed, it's at the discretion of the teacher. So sometimes if they're working independently and they're working on problems or something, and the kid can listen to background noise, that they can listen to music or whatever it is after direct instruction. But I haven't, you know, I've been in several classrooms already, and I haven't seen a single teacher on their phone. And it might be because I carry a radio and everybody knows who I am, so maybe they don't do that, but I have not seen that it's an issue. We know that we have to model appropriate behavior for kids. If you know that it's an issue, please tell me so that I can see it from my own eyes and I will address it.
I haven't heard any reports.
Okay.
As a
I
parent.
was just curious, because I know so many people so many adults can't live without their phone, and they have to have it right there where they're watching it.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that's the example we have to set for our kids. If I can do it, you can do it too.
Yes, ma'am.
And they're adults with families and children and spouses across, you know, town. So I was just curious how the faculty was handling it.
They are very happy about it. In fact, we don't even allow kids to take their phone out into the hallway. If it's during instruction time, they should not be leaving the room with their phone. Nothing good is going on when kids are texting one another to meet in the bathroom. You know, so, and we talked about that at the beginning of the year, so they are very supportive.
I'm real happy to hear that. I haven't had any complaints. I don't know about my colleagues.
No, as a parent, I haven't had any complaints, and I've actually had a lot of positive feedback and feel like there's a lot of great energy at the high school and a lot of great energy coming out of the high school right now, which is super to hear. And I've heard from parents and from students and from teachers that about how well the cell phone policy is working. I've heard it from students about the rapid response. I've heard it from that side on it, and that was fascinating. And, you know, I think that they even agreed that it worked, right? That's handling it like that. And that same approach to managing some of the scheduling issues that we've had, I think has been great and has worked out well. I think, you know, we all are aware that there are challenges still that exist, but I think that it's off to a good start in addressing those, and I think that we have lots to look forward to. So I think it's a good start. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I think, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion made by
I
Ms.
looked at
Cantu,
Brian, he
seconded
didn't
by
make it.
Mr. Shanks. Any conversation, discussion, debate on whether or not we shall adjourn? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. Thanks, everyone. Thanks to the schools, campuses, team leadership teams for coming tonight. We appreciate it.